Hello everyone, I'm Mr. Rain, and today I'm just doing an experimental video, if you want to call it that. I'm going to look at the AK in Modern Warfare and strip it down, try to make it as mobile as possible, and see what the results are. So of course, by doing this, we are going to be running with no stock, and we're going to be running with the compact barrel. On top of this, we're also going to be running with a stippled grip, which isn't bad, to be honest. The grip itself is actually pretty useful for many loadouts, but in this case, it's actually going to be more harm than good in regards to the overall control. So as you can see, we are going to be losing a lot of control. Just so you can kind of see what the difference is in regards to recoil, here's a clip of me showing the difference in the recoil from a base AK with no attachments to this modified one that's fully mobile. There is a distinct difference in regards to its ADS time. It's much more faster than the base AK. However, you do see that you do get a lot more recoil. And at first, it didn't seem all that bad. But in reality, it started to show its ugly head once I started to get into games and actually shoot at live targets. So the big problem with the AK when it's fully mobile is that you do get a lot of jump and a lot of kick in your gun, and it really bounces all over the place. Even if you're trying to compensate for the recoil as much as you can, it still bounces around just enough where it can make you very inconsistent. This isn't too bad of a loadout if you're using it for like very close ranges for game modes like say shipment. However, once I found a target that's anywhere from 25 to 30 meters and further on, it is nigh impossible to get a single shot off the person. Not impossible, but it's very close to it. And it's just very inconsistent. Essentially, when the AK is designed in this pattern with with everything designed to be mobile, it kind of fires a lot like the Uzi, just with a faster rate of fire. And of course, more damage. Overall, I do not recommend this setup, even though it is very nice to have that very quick ADS. It's just you lose too much control and too much consistency with your weapon to actually be very useful with it. And again, especially if you're playing at a mid-range type of gameplay. So moving on, I then decided to kind of Frankenstein my way up to try and give myself a little more mobility, but at the same time not using the best attachments out there. So we're going to keep the compact barrel, but we're going to use the skeleton stock, which is actually really good. And we're also going to keep the stipple grip because, again, that's also a really good grip in my opinion. And using that, it was a little easier to use, however, it still got a lot of bounce on the gun, and it was still a lot more difficult to control than the typical base AK. I don't fully recommend this, again, this is more of a close range setup, but it can be used. It is a little more consistent, but not by a whole lot. And then finally, we're going to be using this gun in the best way possible. So we're going to be using the skeleton stock, and we're going to be using the Romanian barrel. And using this arrangement of attachments, you do get a little extra mobility. Your ADS time is a little bit quicker than base AK time, and you get a lot more consistency with the weapon. The AK itself is already a high recoil weapon to begin with, but if you can learn to control that recoil, it can be a very consistent and a very fun gun to use. I personally like using this gun in this game. It fires very smoothly. It does jump more than other games or than other weapons in the game, and the rate of fire is a little slower, or a lot slower than the M4 or the M13, or even the SMGs, which is not to be surprised. This is more of like a range, stay away from me type of weapon, but it can show its strength in close range. And that's really all I can say about this gun. It's a lot of fun to use, but the biggest limitation to it is its mobility. The mobility of it just can't really be boosted up as much as other guns like the M13, where you can run it with no stock and still be very, very consistent with it. This one, you kind of have to run a stock, you kind of have to run a decent barrel, and with this combination, you can still get a little extra mobility out of it. So that's really all I have to say. I'm just gonna let some gameplay run in the meantime. This is how I prefer to use the gun, and it shoots very fine, very clean, and it's also such a killer in hardcore if you ever decide to use this gun in hardcore. Especially with it being a one-shot kill, you'll have no problems out-killing or out-shooting anyone who's using an M14 or an M4 or an M13. The M14, the EBR, maybe not so much, but either way I digress. So again, thank you all very much for watching. I hope this video looks good. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to see more stuff like this, please let me know. And if you have any recommendations, again, please do so in the comments below. So until then, I'll see you guys in the next one.